Back again for another video. On today's topic, we will be talking about what it's like to be content. And this one, I want to focus on the women. This time, I'm going to talk to them in a very specific way. I'm going to attempt, because I don't know the inner workings of every woman, and I don't know the inner workings of some feminine aspects. So this is an attempt to try to talk to you all. Excuse me, I have a little bit of allergy fit going on. So my voice sounds kind of weird. That's why. And if I'm sniffling, sneezing like I usually am in my videos, geez, it's because of this allergy season. My nose is so sensitive. But anyways, being content. This society is largely consumeristic in regards to where people spend their money. And it's not everything. They don't spend all their money is not spent on consumer items, but a large portion of it is. And in the spending, roughly about 80%, 70 to 80% of what they buy are consumer items. What are consumer items? Well, let's go down a list. So I decided to look into this and not give my opinion on this, but actually I will give my opinion. I'm going to say that consumer items are things in which you don't need to be productive in accomplishing a specific goal, and they're more geared towards entertainment. So for instance, a hammer would not be a consumer item. Nails wouldn't be a consumer item, but that flat screen TV would be a consumer item. But I went to a website called investopedia.com, and they list, they have 3 bulletins that I'm going to go over. Consumer items defined on this website are consumer goods or final goods, are goods sold to consumers for their own use or enjoyment and not as means for further economic production activity. For an economic standpoint, consumer goods can be classified as durable, useful for longer than 3 years, non-durable, useful for less than 3 years, or pure services, consumed instantaneously and they are produced. And then the third one is, for marketing purposes, consumer goods can be grouped into different categories based on consumer behavior, how consumers shop for them, and how frequently consumers shop for them. That is a brief overview of what they consider consumer goods. Now, it is also, I don't know if it's a well-known thing, but women spend more money when they go grocery shopping as well, to the grocery store, just not grocery shopping. But they consume less calories than we do, right? So what are they buying? It's estimated that the average man spends around about $35, and the average woman spends about $44, somewhere around there, dollars per shopping trip. What are they buying, right? What are they buying that's so much more important than what a man has to buy? It seems that men are more of the minimalists when it comes to the difference in standards of what is necessary to live, right? Just by the numbers and just by the definition. These are the things, this once again isn't my opinion. This is something that is stated. This is something that has been researched. But nonetheless, my whole point is, the point that I'm getting at is that women consume more. Why? Why do they consume more? Well, we have to look at the natures of who does what and why. I talk about it a lot on my channel, and you guys should know the brief overview that I'm going to give, but I'm going to give it anyways. Women are more about self. They're more about the preservation of self. They're more about the caretaking of the offspring of self than they are about anything externally. They are fixated upon themselves. The whole notion of vanity is fixated around women. When you say man, you don't rarely think of vanity, but when you say woman and you mention vanity, they kind of go hand in hand in a lot of places. Women are more concerned with their external looks because they relay a message that they want to impose upon people without saying anything, right? And this is to further get what they want, whether it be protection, whether it be provision, whether it be leadership, guidance, etc. But when the real test comes, it's actually showing what they have to give in exchange for those things, because the looks, they only make up a small portion, if anything, for a lot of men. But nonetheless, women do these things because this is what garners the outcome that they want. Doesn't say that necessarily, that's not necessarily saying they get the outcome. It just garners the outcome. It attracts the outcome, right? Some women are way off about this. We see this all the time. You know, the woman with the plastic everything. Yeah, that doesn't look good. But they do it anyways. That's for other reasons that I'll discuss at a later time. But nonetheless, a woman does a lot for herself and a lot for her potential offspring, because the whole getting a high value male was largely centered around making sure that your offspring had the best fighting chance, right? But now it's turned into vanity. It's turned into self-entitlement. A lot of these women who want men who have absorbance amount of resources don't even want children. So it's been perverted into something different. But nonetheless, it doesn't negate the fact that this comes from a woman's nature. Now, when you look at a man's nature is sometimes destructive, but the destruction is meant for a means to an end. Of course, there are men who are very destructive with, just trying to make a point. But largely, if a man wants to destroy something, he wants to either use that material for his own, or he wants to build something in the way of it, right? When it comes to the reason why he consumes so that he can provide for everyone else, right? He consumes wood, he consumes metals, he consumes things of the earth so that he can build cities, he can build nations. Our consumption a lot of time is more geared towards building something. So when we don't necessarily want to build for others anymore, which is largely becoming a new thing, once again, everyone is turning into self. The consumer reasons why one would consume tend to go away. Men aren't buying hammers and nails anymore. They are, but not at the rates that they used to. They're not buying tools and, they're not buying things to build with anymore like that. They buy consumer items, but once again, it doesn't take a lot to make a man happy. I think most women should know that. Jeez. Unless you're dealing with a man like me, of course, I guess. I'm another story, but generally speaking, it doesn't take the average man a lot to be happy. And it doesn't take a lot to make him happy. Me, on the other hand, it doesn't take a lot to make me happy, but I demand a lot of the people in my lives, right? So I'm a different story. We're not talking about me necessarily. We're talking about the average man. So when I'm talking about this, know that I'm not really talking about myself. But anyways, as we go on. So when one needs less, they are more easily satisfied. And we've seen this through the numbers and, of course, the definitions of what consumer goods are. And also the fact that women consume about 70 to 80% of the nation's consumer goods. So what does that tell you? That tells you that they are going towards looking to be satisfied. They're constantly needing to be satisfied. I remember I used to buy my children's toys. I used to buy them toys. And this is a good representation of men versus women. Toys are women, are the things that women buy. Men, we buy clothes, right? So I haven't spent a lot of money on toys nor clothes because I make use of the things that I can in the necessary ways to make these costs go away as much as possible while still maintaining my responsibility to my children. they don't have a lot of toys. They have more clothes than they actually have entertainment things. But nonetheless, my point of it is when they was younger, they wanted toys. I bought them like, those little, what do you call them? Those little xylophone things with like the 3 keys on them. And they got like the wooden dial that you knock on them with and make the little noises. And I bought them, just kids toys, the little big ass puzzle pieces, it's like 5 puzzle pieces to the whole puzzle, just things like that, right? For kids. And I also bought them clothes. But guess what? They outgrew the clothes and they outgrew the toys. But there are some things that did not change. They wanted entertainment and they needed clothes, no matter how much they outgrew them. But there are some things that are necessary and some things that are not necessary. It's not necessary for a child to have personal entertainment, but it is very necessary for a child to be clothed properly. But nonetheless, they requested things that they didn't need. This is what women do. They are childlike in many ways. Men, we can go a lot with the things that we desire. We can go without those things a lot of times. Sure, we'll work hard to obtain some things and we will attain things. But once again, a lot of these things just end up being more tools to build upon what we have as a purpose. We will minimize the cost that we spend on ourselves in order to put that money towards our purpose, right? We will minimize the amount of time that we spend doing unnecessary things so that we can put that time towards our purpose, right? Even myself, I take a lot of leisure time. And that's because I worked a good 20 to 30 years of my life, and that's even into my childhood. I worked very hard to not end up where statistically I was supposed to be. It's a shame that in this country, as a black man, you have to work hard just to be normal, just to have a normal life. That's crazy, when it's just given to others. But once again, I'm not here to talk about those things. But women, on the other hand, they don't have to work for a lot of things. I know that may sound crazy, that may sound really crazy. They say that, you, in order to have any sustainable living in this life, you should work for it. But here's something that women don't account for, that largely they consume things that they don't necessarily need. And why do they consume these things? Because they rationalize them as a need in their lives, when we as men know these things are silly. If you tell a child, hey, this is xylophone, you don't need this, give me that. They'll cry, that's their toy. That's what they like. That's what entertains them. You take that away from them and tell them they don't need this, they're going to look at you crazy and they're going to have a fit about it. That's no different than a lot of these women out here. They think that the things that they have in their lives, they actually need. They have no idea what it's like to live a humble life, even though they are relegated to humility, especially as BWs. What was the stats again? -$5? And you're not humble? You should be, because you don't have a window to throw the piss out of and a pot to piss in. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's come down to. That's the truth of the matter. Largely, there are more men who own property than women. And that's not because this system is sexist or anything like this. All things even, you were given the same opportunity that we were. There was no handouts for men. Actually, there are more handouts for women, and y'all are still failing more than men are, more than the black men are. So that should tell you something, that the things that you want in this life, the things that you require in this life, most of them are not necessary. They're nothing but things that bog you down and that take away from your purpose, which is why you can never seek happiness, because you're investing into things that don't serve a necessary purpose to your purpose. And yet you can't find happiness. No one ever seems to put 2 and 2 together here. I don't understand why not. It's very obvious to me once again, but no one seems to stop and think, especially as BWs. No one stops to think to say, hey, I'm investing my money and my time, my effort, my everything into all these things, but yet I go home and I'm sad. I have no happiness. I have no peace. I have no stability. I have no reassurance. I have no security. I have no safety. I have no stable state of mind. But yet you're giving your soul essence to things that you think you need, right? Stop being a consumer. Maybe you'll find some peace of mind. Realize what is important in this world. Realize what you give your energy to. Realize that you are in charge of the direction of your life, especially when you don't want to submit to a man, and that you're not a victim. The only thing that you're a victim of anything, are your own poor decisions. That's the unfortunate part about it, is that once again, a lot of women are so groomed to dysfunctional living that they think that they need these things in their lives. The dysfunction, that's what I'm talking about, because over consuming is a dysfunction. It has more root dysfunctions, yes, like for instance, insecurities, low self-esteem, no direction. Those things point to the overconsumption of something or many things. When you are more in line with what your purpose is and what your direction is in life, you become more efficient. And what does it mean to be more efficient? That means that you consume less, right? It's so crazy. I mean, the writing is right on the wall. If I had a truck, right? If I had any car, let's say I had a car and I used to get 24 miles to the gallon, but now I get 30 miles to the gallon. That means that my car is over consuming. Even though I take the same route every single day, I don't go over any miles than I used to, but my car is consuming more. That means something's not right with it. That means that I probably need to fix myself, fix my car. I need to give it a tune-up. I need to readjust things back to the natural order of how they were intended to function. That's what overconsumption means. That's what it should mean. It should direct you to say, I'm consuming way too much. And a lot of these things that I'm consuming, I am not getting any further than I did when I consumed less. That should point to you that you need to cut back, that you need to practice some discipline, that you need to figure out another plan in order to stop consuming so much unnecessarily, especially when it's not getting you any closer to happiness. This is the definition of not being content with oneself. When you have to overconsume, that means that you're drawing more in unnecessarily. That is a clear indication of not being content with life. What does it mean to be content? Let's look up the definition real quick. In a state of peaceful happiness. To be in a state of satisfaction. That is the definition of being content. When you consume more and more, 80% of the consumer items, does that say that you're in a state of being satisfied? No, that's not being satisfied. And it's so crazy that people don't see that the overconsumption of things is a clear indication of dissatisfaction with the quality of life. But yet they do nothing to change their lives. They just consume more. You think the consumption of things is going to change the satisfaction of your life? That's crazy. That's like using a fork to eat cereal and then be like, you know what? I need a bigger fork. No, silly. It didn't work the first time. So you think that more is going to work of the same type of vein of thinking? That's not how that works. Being content is once again a state of peaceful happiness, a state of being satisfied. Figure out what you need to do in order to feel satisfaction with less. That is the key of being content. That is the key to being content. It's figuring out how you can be satisfied with less of what you consume in this world. But anyways, like, comment, and share. Check me out on Facebook. Check me out on Patreon. But until next time, this has been the Wolf and Beta Close, and you know it. Peace be with you.